Hey, everybody. Let's talk about food. Let's talk about restaurants. April is Restaurant and Retail Month at the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Look at me, I'm blurry. Hold on, I get like the autofocus thing going on. I tricked my Oh, there I am in high def. Back with you in high def, and now I got echo. Man, I'm like Bush Leaguing it over here. Hey, so let's talk about food. Let's talk about restaurants. April is Restaurant and Retail Month at the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce, but I already said that. Today we have an outstanding guest. He is a veteran. He is a restaurateur. He is a business owner. Has one of my personal favorite restaurants right down the road from me where I live, the Explorium Brewpub. His name's Mike Doble. Amazing guy with a great story. We're going to talk about restaurants surviving and thriving and adapting to a post-pandemic world. And I'm really curious to hear his thoughts on how the stimulus has helped. Has it helped? And if not, has it been a Band-Aid on a flesh wound? Is it just something that we're kind of biding our time until it's over and behind us, or has it been a real boon and something that helps get him and his contemporaries through? So I just the whole restaurant industry has had to adapt and change so much due to the shutdowns and due to the pandemic. I personally am curious about which changes and adaptations will endure. And which ones will go away once COVID is in our rearview mirrors. We're going to get into all that and more right after this. Very exciting. The music got me motivated. That wasn't my best introduction. I got to admit, we didn't get off. I was blurry, and then I had an echo. So that's 2 strikes against me. But I was redeemed a bit by those kicking tunes in that intro reel. Hello again. For those of you that are just joining us or joining us via Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitch, please join in. Please participate. Throw comments out. I know Mike's going to want to take some questions from you as well. But I will shut up and go ahead and introduce my good friend, Mike Doble. How are you, sir?
Good, Adam. How are you doing? It's good to see you.
I'm doing really well, man. It's good to see your face as well. So you are right now sitting in the outdoor bar at which location? Greendale?
I'm at Greendale. This is the outdoor bar in Greendale.
Ooh, I'm jealous.
Mall. We actually got some people sitting by the fire pit drinking beer, which is great.
Right on. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It makes my heart warm when I see that.
Yeah, that's a cool spot. I see the heater over your head. That's one of the cool things. Wisconsinites, we know how to party, and we can hit up an outdoor bar year round. But you get to January, February, it's a little chilly, and you need a heater. I know you operated throughout most of the winter. Did you have to shut down when it was like its coldest, or how did that work?
If it's under about 10 degrees, I shut down the outside bar. I don't even open it up. But if it's 10 degrees or above, it's always open. During the wintertime, we actually have a vinyl enclosure that goes around the bar.
Okay.
So it stays open, it's open to the outside. There's no door on it, but with the windbreak and the heat, and actually the infrared heater over my shoulder heats up the granite surface quite nicely. So it actually really radiates some heat. It's fantastic.
Get some radiant heating.
Yeah. So it's great. Yeah, no, it's open year round. And we actually have our fire pit area always cleared off with snow so people can stand around the fire pit and drink some beers and smoke some cigars. It's a pretty dope place. I try to build a place that I like to hang out, and it's something that, what I want to do. So
it's beautiful. Well, it is a fun place to hang out. Now, I have to admit, I haven't been to the Milwaukee, your new downtown location quite yet. But we're actually planning, we've been working. I won't give anything away quite yet on collaborating for an event here, possibly a live event coming up here at the end of this quarter, the beginning of next quarter. So I'm excited about that. So your outdoor stuff, you had in place before COVID. You had the outdoor hang space before COVID. Was that advantageous? Did it end up being like a huge, because not every restaurant has an outdoor hang space, and a lot of them had to make last minute adaptations. Was that kind of a key to your success?
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, a big part of our brand, those of you know a little bit about my history and the history of my restaurant is it leans heavily on a brew pub that my parents own down in Florida, in Tampa, Florida. And a big part of what they do is a lot of outside service. Mm-hmm. And I noticed, having lived here in Wisconsin for so many years, I've been here since '98 when I got out of the Army. Having been here so many years, I noticed that there's very few places that have a full bar outside in Wisconsin. There's a lot of places with outdoor seating, maybe some limited outdoor seating. But so one of the key components of what I do with my brand is to have a lot of outdoor seating. And just by happenstance, because of COVID, I mean, that became so important for us to drive revenue. But I have a 100-seat outdoor patio with, lots of space. It's very spread out. And, when we built the new location downtown, we kind of did the same thing. Now, granted, we're still developing the downtown location a little bit. I'm not made of money. I'm an ex-Army guy. So we all know what that is. But eventually we'll have a nice lounge area built around the fire pits at the downtown spot. And so we continue to do that. But, when COVID happened, it was pretty easy for me just to, basically all I did is I took out some of the tables outside to create some more spacing. But other than that, we just continued business as usual on the outside patio. And it's kind of interesting because, I realized this week that we have been open, after the shutdown, we've been open almost a year. We've been open 11 months today since, COVID started. And it's really interesting to me how many restaurants in our market have actually not reopened since the shutdown, which happened last year, if you remember, on St. Patrick's Day around March 17th. Right.
Boy, it sure has decimated the industry. There have been a lot of restaurants that have not been able to weather the storm, and we're thinking about those business owners, and wishing them the best. It's
100%.
It's a tough thing. What have you? So you had the outdoor seating in place, but undoubtedly you still face some challenges. This pandemic wasn't easy for any of us.
No.
What would you say are the biggest challenge or challenges that you've had to face head on and adapt and overcome in the face of the shutdown and the pandemic?
Well, so internally, some of the challenges were just getting staff on board with some of the protective measures that we needed to put in place. It was just simply an education thing. I mean, once they were educated on what the requirements were and what they still are, and once they were educated on that and they understood why they had to do it, and they understood that if they did do it, they could continue to work, it became pretty easy to get them to embrace all the things that we had to do. But that was a big challenge. It was a big challenge getting open because, like I said, we were just coming out of a shutdown. We were shut down for 72 days. And, that diminished a lot of resources. And so I didn't have the resources to hire staff a week ahead of time and bring them in and train them. Basically, they all came back the day before we reopened, and we had a big meeting. And I said, hey, you're all sitting here looking at me with no masks on. I know you all have them. Pull it out of your pocket, put it on your face. And as long as you're in this building, it stays on. And we started there, and we spent, rest of that day training. So that was a challenge.
Did anybody get up and walk out and just say, like, forget you, I'm not doing that? Because I know some people were, if they're not now, maybe they were at the beginning opposed to it.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think I'm a little better leader than that. But no, nobody walked out. There was a little pushback, about, hey, I work by myself in the brewery and nobody's around me. Do I really need to wear a mask? And I said, one of the things I learned a long time ago as a young second lieutenant in the Army is that, set a standard that's super straightforward and super easy to follow. If you're in the building, you wear a mask. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. Then I'll find somebody else to do your job. It's very straightforward. So yeah, there was a little pushback, but I'm a very straightforward, I'm a very much a treat everybody with kindness and respect sort of leader.
Right.
And I, gently kind of got everybody on the same page to say, hey, this is just what we're going to do. And it worked. That was the initial challenge. The challenge after that was getting guests comfortable with the environment. So a lot of plastic shields, a lot of, hand sanitizing stations, and we actually put plastic dividers up in our dining room that actually are still in place today. Our dining room looks like a bunch of booths made out of shower curtains. It actually looks a lot nicer than that if you haven't seen it, but I think it's just kind of become part of the norm, and people are used to it. And it took a little time, but guests got to be familiar with our protocols, familiar with our systems and how we were doing things, and that our staff was not getting sick coming to work, which was a big thing for me. And we did have staff members get sick and go down with COVID, like everybody has in everybody's organization. But we always were very careful on contact tracing and following up with the health department to find out, hey, exactly where do you think this infection came from? And in every case, the health department has said, it's not coming from work because nobody else at work's been sick. And this person admitted they were at a party at somebody's house and whatever, and we have 2 others that are also sick from the same party. So we spent a lot of time doing that, and I spent a lot of time flapping my gums with guests, making sure they understood all the precautions we were taking. And and that's a big thing. And me doing all the same things that they were, wearing a mask and doing all the following all the protocols to keep people safe.
It's got to be tough to be both a leader in the organization, but in many ways, a middleman, in that you are being forced to implement policy from the health department, from the state, from the federal government. You have no choice. Your hands are tied.
Right.
And I would imagine that, and you taking up the leadership mantle and imposing those, as a good leader, you got your folks on board. But I would imagine, did you face pushback from some of your guests?
Oh yeah, of course. I still get it every day.
But do they understand that it's out of your hands?
Yeah, they do to a certain degree, but I have there's a certain segment of the population that just doesn't see it that way. They see it as, well, what, you have a choice, and as a business owner, you have a choice. And my response is, yeah, you're right. Don't try to impose your view on me. Just like you were telling me that I have a choice not to do it, I also have a choice to do it as well, and follow those guidelines. And what I've learned is a very large percentage of our customer base, whether they agree with it or not, they appreciate it. And the fact that the bartender who deals with 150, 160 people face to face a day, I feel better with him having a mask on. And that's just the way it is. And they've in the end, we've kind of gotten used to the protocols, but as time goes on, I'm getting more and more guests, verbalize to me that they think it's ridiculous and whatever. And that's okay. I got broad shoulders, man. I can handle it. But I just think it's, not taking any precautions, I don't think is very prudent. And even if the precautions, may or may not, may be, a little in question as to how effective they are, I'd rather do something, because I have a brain, I can use logic. And, if my bartender's not breathing somebody's air directly, it certainly has some measure of protection for him.
Have you had a cold or a flu in the last year? I haven't.
No.
Because I've been wearing a mask. So people in other cultures, and not saying for or against or whatever, not taking a stand on anything personally or on behalf of the chamber, but people, especially in East Asian countries, if they're sick and they have to go out or go to work, they wear a mask.
Yep.
It's like a courteous thing. And I know we made it a politicized thing, but like, I've been wearing a mask vigilantly, and I haven't gotten a cold or the flu.
Yep.
So I guess that brings me to my next question. I would love to see, and Alyssa says, I'd much rather have restaurants take safety precautions. Yeah, better safe than sorry. What's the worst thing that happens if we're wrong? I mean, people people like you and I that have been in Mop 4, for those of you that don't know what Mop 4 is,
Yeah.
that have spent 48 hours and mission-oriented protective posture 4, whatever it's called. Look up Mop 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we roll our eyes if people are like, well, the mask is uncomfortable.
Yeah, big deal.
Military folks are like, come on.
Yeah, it's interesting because in training, Mop 4 was terrible. And those that don't know what Mop 4 is, it's basically a chemical protective outer suit that's lined with charcoal and full gas mask with hood over your head. And in training, it was a big pain in the ass. But I tell you what, when you're in the Middle East and there's incoming rounds and you don't know what it is, and they call for you to put on your protective gear, it's your pleasure to put on your protective gear.
Glad it's there.
You're glad it's there. And this is I think wearing a mask and the safety precautions we're doing. I've always been very big on sanitation anyway. And it just reinforced, and I actually had my staff make it a little more visible, and just reinforcing and redoing, and so it's worked out great. Like I said, we haven't had any staff get sick at work. In every case of COVID that we've had in staff, it's been traced to some outside source. So
it's very frustrating. It's frustrating for you as an employer because you can't control what they do outside of work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult, but basically, we put in a very strict policy as to quarantine and everything else. Very much in line with what everybody else has been doing. As far as once you get it, 10 days and a negative test and all that. But because of that, they're not working during that time. And you know what? One thing, God bless my staff. They love to work. I mean, they want to be at work. They get paid well, and so there's a motivation there to protect themselves when they're out and about and whatever else. And as to the guests that come in and want to, have their input heard on how we're, managing safety precautions, I'm like a broken record with most of them. And I just simply say, hey, I appreciate your input. But what we're doing is working and I'm not going to screw with it. And it is working. So, I don't know what's happening out in the rest of the world and what other restaurants are doing. And frankly, I don't care. I care about what we're doing and what I do. And you know what, if somebody has a great exception to that because they want to politicize mask wearing, then, stay away until nobody wears a mask. That's fine. But I'll welcome you back when it's all over,
So let's say that's a good segue to what my next question was going to be here. Let's say COVID is over tomorrow. Which adaptations do you predict will endure? Like you mentioned your bartender putting out 150, 200 drinks in a shift. Does that bartender continue to wear a mask? Do any of your employees continue to wear a mask? Do you have shields up, or is that hard to predict?
Well, that's a great question. And it is predictable for me because I already know what I'm going to do.
Okay. All right.
We have we created, and a little side segue here. I created a project called the Hope Project. Being a military guy, I like acronyms. Hope stands for Here's One to Pandemic Ending. And I brought together a whole bunch of brewers from the area, a bunch of distillers from around the state. The distillers provided us barrels. All the brewers got together, and quite frankly, we drank beer all day. But we brewed a beer together, and we put this beer into barrels. And when the pandemic ends, we're going to release this beer, and I'm basically going to give away this beer to the public. Come in and enjoy it and try it because you know what? Pandemic is over. And whenever that is, we will know. And I don't know if it's going to be the governor declaring something or, whatever. And quite frankly, I think public opinion is going to probably drive it more than anything.
Probably. Yeah.
At that point, when we have the Hope Project, there will be a 55-gallon metal drum, otherwise known in Wisconsin as a burn barrel, out on each of my patios. And I will invite people in to come burn their masks and drink some of the Hope beer. And the first people burning their masks will be my staff. Because, you know what? So, yeah, I mean, I don't think that masks are going to persist. I don't think that I don't like it. I like to see people's faces. It's very difficult. One of the challenges with masks, it's very difficult for my staff to communicate with guests where we tend to have a pretty loud environment, and the masks not only muffle your voice, but also takes away your ability to kind of, read their lips and read what they're saying. So it's been a challenge in that regard. Right. So I see masks going away because they are a hindrance. I believe they're necessary at this stage, but yeah, they're a hindrance and they will go away eventually. As far as stuff that will persist, what will persist is the fantastic habit, the excellent habit of sanitizing constantly. And I've already told my staff that I'm so glad that we went through this exercise. Not that I'm glad we had a pandemic, but I'm so glad that we had an exercise where we've doubled down on sanitation, because I always felt like I was the broken record. Hey, you got to wipe this. You got to wash your hands. You got to sanitize. You can't handle dirty glassware and then go make a fresh drink. And I was always the broken record. Well, now they get it. And it's been ingrained as a habit over the last year, and that will persist. And I'm really happy about that, because I tend to be a bit of a germaphobe myself.
Well, and it keeps people safe. And in your industry, being a germaphobe is a really good thing.
Absolutely.
As has been the constant whenever we on our live show talk about anything related to COVID or mask wearing or anything in between, we can rely on Jeremy to come in and share his 2 cents. I'd like to see the masks gone since they are worthless, which is a factually incorrect statement. Thanks again, Jeremy, for your COVID related opinions. Hey, nobody likes wearing masks, and we're not saying for or against. Mike here says he'd be the first person to burn them in a pit, but they have been proven to reduce the transmission of germs. So whether you're for or against it politically, the data definitely supports that. Thanks as always, Jeremy, for your input. So I want to go back in time a little bit. Mike. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Man, I am really just
I just realized I'm wearing a Tampa Bay Brewing Company t-shirt.
Well, and that's where I wanted to go. So Tampa Bay Brewing, you said is that your parents' brewery? And what took you from Florida to the Army to Wisconsin?
So my dad was an Army guy. My dad was a career Army career officer. He 2 tours in Vietnam in the 60s and early 70s, and then I was born in 69, and we traveled all over the world. So I kind of grew up in the Army. I don't have a hometown. I was born in Fort Ord, California. By the time I went to my first year of college, I had gone to 12 different schools. We moved around a lot.
Right.
So I really didn't have a home. I actually, my dad retired in 89. Okay. At the same time he retired, my mom and dad moved to Tampa, Florida. That's where my grandparents, my dad's parents, had retired in the early 70s. And so I always kind of considered Tampa to be home, because it's probably the one place we visited the most, and it's where my grandparents lived, from as long as I can remember. And that's where my parents retired. But at the same time they retired to Tampa, I actually moved to Daytona Beach, Florida, and went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And I moved there from Hampton, Virginia. My dad was stationed at Fort Monroe. So we left Fort Monroe. They went to Tampa. I went to Daytona. And the first day of school, I meet this sweetheart of a lady that's from Muskego, Wisconsin. And I'm like, where's Muskego, Wisconsin?
Your very first day of school?
Very first day of school.
Okay.
And
how about that?
Yeah. And actually Saturday is our 28th wedding anniversary.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Very cool.
So
you met the first day of college, you met the love of your life.
Yep. So she wasn't at first, she was just some cute girl from Wisconsin that I was pursuing.
Sure.
And then I found out like how cool she was, and like, hey, Wisconsin people like to party. I like this.
They do.
And so we started going out right away, and it was the rest, as they say, is history. But I went to college on an Army scholarship, ROTC scholarship, and I ended up I actually my degree's in aerospace engineering. I was working on a bunch of research projects and some things. They offered for me to stay, but the Army said, no, we need you on active duty. So I went on active duty, and and that's kind of the way things go for me. You kind of want to do one thing. I end up doing another. I go in as a second lieutenant engineer officer, Ranger school, Fort Bragg, sapper school, jump master school, Pathfinder school, get all the brownie badges, and ended up being at Fort Bragg for about 4.5 years, jumping out of planes, which was fun. Ended up doing my advanced course, second tour in Hawaii. And then after Hawaii, Joan and I had this decision to make. I was ready to ETS.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest mistakes I made in my Army career is leaving a place like Fort Bragg and going to a place like Hawaii. And those.
How did you leave Hawaii, especially after Bragg? I've been there. I know what you're talking about.
Oh, I love Hawaii. Schofield Barracks was great. It was a great assignment for me. I got to do a lot of technical engineering work, which was great. I got licensed as a civil engineer while there. I was ready to ETS, and Joan and I had this decision to make between Hawaii and Wisconsin. And, her dad was in, slightly failing health at the time. And, she really made a compelling case that maybe we should go to Wisconsin and live in Milwaukee. And I love Milwaukee. Like I said, I visited quite a bit, when we were younger. We actually got married in St. Martin at Tours, which is in St. Martin's in Franklin. We settled here in 98. And at about the same time, my folks, my dad was kind of bounced around doing a couple things in his military retirement. The luxury of having a nice military retirement where you can bounce around to find something you like. And at one point, my brother convinced my mom and dad to open a homebrew store in Tampa, Florida. So they opened this homebrew store that turned into a brew pub, and fast forward 20 years, very successful doing it. Really cool brand, a lot of fun. I love what they were doing, and when I was ready to make a move from engineering, that was kind of what I gravitated towards. And that's how Explorium came about.
How about that? That's a great story. And
a lot of fun.
So it was kind of in your DNA. Your family did the brew pub thing, and so you decided to do that. Where did you get the idea for the fried meatloaf appetizer? Because that thing just absolutely rocks my world.
Oh, I love that meatloaf, man.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it was kind of a whim. Yeah, just a whim. I was in the kitchen one day and I was like, "Hey, Chef Nick." I said, "Can't we just chunk this up, bread it, and throw it in the fryer? We need a new app on the menu." We simply did that.
It just came to you. So that's from your noggin there.
Yep, absolutely.
It is a work of art.
Thank you. It was actually inspired by State Fair. Everything at State Fair is deep fried, right? Breaded and deep fried. And I think it was a State Fair special to start with. It was kind of State Fair season. I'm like, hey, let's fry some meatloaf, or let's do something different. So that's kind of where it came from.
State Fair. Man, I miss the State Fair.
I know. I love State Fair. It was actually, the first time I visited Wisconsin in 1980. No, it had to be 1990. It was the summer of 90. And basically I got off the plane, stayed the first night, and we spent the rest of the week at State Fair. And I was sold. I loved it. It was fantastic. I'd never eaten so many cheese curds and cream puffs, and it was fantastic.
Deep fried cannoli or whatever they've come up with.
Yeah. I came to Wisconsin a skinny man.
Wisconsin, just being in Wisconsin's bad for all of our health, but we have a lot of fun.
We are happy.
Yeah. We got some more comments here. Jeremy, of course, is continuing to defend his conspiracy, whatever. Stanford study, Texas and Florida going great despite versus California. Both Texas and Florida have higher rates of COVID positive tests per 100,000 than California. But thanks for playing. Look, man, Jeremy, you can bring the thunder. I'm up for a dialogue, but you gotta have your guns loaded. You're bringing a spoon to a gunfight, buddy. Come on now. You can do it, Jeremy. Let's go.
It's okay.
I'd love a dialogue, but get some data.
Yeah, and I thankfully we're getting to the point where, like in my restaurant, it's at Southridge. We, if somebody wants to walk to the bathroom, they don't have a mask on, we leave them alone now.
Yeah, I think we're getting there.
Things are starting to relax, and thank God. Really. Thankfully we. This vaccine that was, developed, basically so quickly. The technology is not new, but the vaccine is, it's unbelievable that we can take genetic coding and deliver it to our cells in order to manufacture something that,
it's incredible
fight this thing
technology.
off. Amazing, just amazing.
And it's almost insulting to the people that worked so hard, that are experts, absolute experts in their field, that created something that is now proven safe and to work 99.999% of the time, to say like, well, we don't know what's in it, we're not sure. Come on, these are pros and they work so hard. The technology is amazing. Saul Newton, our executive director, says State Fair is coming back this year. And Greg Fisher, I know you know Greg, Explorium cheese curds are amazing. FYI, Burn Pit Barbecue would like to sponsor your burn barrels.
Greg is the man. You know, I don't know if you know Greg well, but he has a
I know Greg, yeah.
Okay, Burn Pit Barbecue, and they make some fantastic barbecue rubs, and I'm hooked on them now. So you know, all of my barbecue at my house is all Burn Pit, and we've done some wing specials with them, and they're fantastic.
Oh, have you really? Oh, outstanding. Glad we got all these veteran businesses that are lifting each other up. Jeremy, if you're still watching, I hope we're still on good terms after I gave you a hard time there. You know, the one thing that we can all align on is nobody likes wearing masks, especially the folks that have to wear them all day, like our restaurants, servers and bars. Nobody likes it. But we are.
And you know, let me say one other thing, Adam.
Yeah, you bet.
You know whether I agree with Jeremy or not. You know, Greendale's been pretty good. It's out in the suburbs, but downtown, my restaurant downtown, if the health department walks in and one of my bartenders is not wearing a mask, it's a $2,500 fine.
Whoa.
It's insane what's
like
going
immediately,
on.
No questions, like boom.
So you know, I you know, and I respect everybody's opinion, and I think you know, Jeremy sounds like a smart guy, and you know, he's got his opinion, and that's great. But as a business owner, I have to do the things that are required of us by, you know what, and if I don't agree with it, then I should run for office and I should change it. Right? I mean, that's my solution. I mean, that's about my only recourse. I mean, you know, maybe Jeremy could write letters to the city of Milwaukee for me, because that would be great. Every time I write a letter or call the alderman, I get an extra health inspection. So, you know, having members of the public push back against those things. And if Jeremy's got information, send it to the health department in Milwaukee and convince them that, you know, it's not reasonable for us to get a $2,500 fine if they walk in and somebody's not wearing a mask. I mean, but, you know, from my perspective, I just have to do it or I lose my license.
Right.
You know? So
well, so I want to talk about the opposite end of the spectrum. So fines, they stink. What about government subsidy, whether it be federal or state level? Has that helped? The Restaurant Revitalization Fund application period opens, I believe, this Friday. Is it super helpful to keep you going, or is it a Band-Aid on a flesh wound? No,
it's been tremendously helpful.
Okay.
I've taken advantage of two programs since the pandemic started. The payroll protection program, which was, I mean, that allowed us to survive last summer.
That's outstanding. That's good to hear.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a fantastic program. It still is a fantastic program. I'm still trying to get through the forgiveness process, but that's okay. I'll get through it.
I don't doubt that's going to be troublesome.
Yeah. But you know, it allowed me to, I mean, so here's before the PPP money, I had managers and key staff basically doing everything in the business. Cause you know what, I'm like, hey guys, we're not doing enough business to have all this support staff. We as a team just have to do it ourselves. And we were running ragged, and we're still not keeping our head above water. And so it was kind of that point where it's like, oh man, is this even worth it to stay open and continue to? And we were shut down for in-person dining, and I'm just talking about, it even makes sense to stay open for takeout because you can't make enough money doing it. So expensive for packaging and everything else. Well, then PPP came along, and I was able to bring some people in and bring in some support staff and get some of our kitchen staff working again. And now that you know we have some lower paid staff working, it's not all managers. The margin got a little better. We could increase our volume, and it actually worked out. Yes, it was. So the short answer is it was tremendously helpful. The other program I took advantage of is the EIDL loan. That's the
economic injury disaster or whatever. Yeah,
I think it's economic disaster injury loan or whatever. So I was able to take a loan for that, and that was huge. The payments on that start coming due next month. And as we
I
sit
wonder if
here
they're going to
today,
defer those since we're still,
it's possible.
yeah.
I mean, everything's so fluid.
So up in the air. I know that's
so
got to
up
be
in the air.
frustrating as a business owner.
It is. I mean, and it impacted a lot of people last summer because the PPP was supposed to be used within so many weeks, and
Right.
there was a lot of guys that just hired all of their staff back and started paying them all just to burn the money while they during the period required. Well, then right when they didn't have any money left, just kidding. You get 24 weeks.
Yeah.
So there was some little miscues in the program, but just like everything else, anytime we do legislature that quickly, not every circumstance can be contemplated.
Yeah.
I
think everybody's doing the best they can.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking it up here. It's Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL, through the Small Business Association. Well, I'm glad that those programs exist and you were able to take advantage of them and they helped. Are you going to be applying for the RRF then on Friday?
I will be. And actually our application window opens on Monday.
Oh, Monday. Okay.
And let me talk about another issue because I know we're getting a little short on time. Here's what hasn't helped us.
Okay.
What hasn't helped us is extension of unemployment benefits. The extra kicker on unemployment has hurt our industry tremendously.
Okay.
And if there's anybody listening that's in the legislature or whatever, put the work application test back into unemployment. 2 weeks ago, I scheduled 30 interviews. I had 2 people show up.
Because they'd be making as much, if not more, just...
Yes.
Okay.
The extra unemployment is causing us to not be able to hire staff.
Wow.
And
that's industry wide.
Industry wide, yeah.
Okay.
Across the board. And I'm out there, being the mouthpiece for it, but it's happening to, all the hospitality businesses that I know, and I talk to a lot of other hospitality business owners, it's hurting all of us in our ability to bring in staff and get people back to work.
So you think a solution would be the employment test?
Absolutely. Go back to a normal unemployment system, right? You know what? You have to apply for 4 jobs, and you have to show you didn't get the jobs or whatever it is. I've never been I've never been on the unemployment roll, so I don't know what the actual requirements are. But giving money to people, and and I'm sure there's other industries. I'm speaking for hospitality. I'm sure there's other industries where it's absolutely necessary and they haven't been able to reopen. But I have 15 job openings right now at each location, and I can't fill them. So.
Well, I know construction manufacturing is having a hard time with that as well. And a lot of labor wage positions are having a hard time competing with the amount. So that's, if anyone's listening, and we do have a lot of viewers today across all of our platforms. So if anyone's listening, that is right from the horse's mouth, from a business owner and a restaurateur, that is hurting small businesses in Wisconsin.
Big time.
Okay, well that's good. That's news. That's news, I'm sure, to a lot of people that are watching. So support your local restaurants. Support your Explorium Brewpubs. The best thing you can do, in addition to advocating on their behalf to legislators, but also go eat their cheese curds and go have a beer.
And the cheese curds are fantastic.
They are incredible. And we do, my kids ask for them routinely, and we'll come and get them on takeout on the regular. They'll ask specifically, it's the only cheese curd they ask for specifically by name.
Nice.
Is the Explorium cheese curd. So really awesome to have you share your insights with us today and a little bit of your story, owner, exactly what helps and what doesn't help has been really, really enlightening. It's good to see Explorium continue to thrive and even open up a new location. And golly, I'm so excited to check that out. And thanks for you and all you do. Not only putting some great food and some great beer out there, but also being a mouthpiece for your industry and for the veteran community. Appreciate everything that you do, man.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. I appreciate it. And, you guys keep up the good work, keep getting the word out there. Having organizations like the Veterans Chamber are so important because, in a lot of cases, if I go jump up and down inside City Hall and start screaming from the rooftops, it just gets me extra health inspections. So, and it really doesn't get me anywhere. But having an advocate that's, can evaluate, all of their members that are in similar industries and bring common goals forward, to, the politicians or whoever will listen to help.
Right.
We're not asking for a free ride, not asking for anything that, I'm just asking to be left alone and let me do my job and get off our back.
And run a business.
And let us, run a business. Stop hiring private contractors in Milwaukee to inspect businesses. I mean, what kind of bullshit's that? I mean, those are the kinds of things that we look to organizations like you to help us with. And you guys do a good job of disseminating that information, getting it out there to people, and I appreciate that.
And we try our best to disseminate information and to get opinions from all angles. We are a nonpartisan organization. We are nonpartisan. We want to hear from everybody. And what's important to us is businesses in Wisconsin. That's what we care about. Yep. So when a business owner says this helps, this hurts, we spread the word about it.
Yeah,
we're the voice of our constituency. We're not pushing any sort of agenda. Mark says, great discussion. Thanks for watching, Mark. He says, great discussion, Mike. I'll be in Milwaukee this summer, so I'll see if we can make it to your place. Oh man, if you're in Milwaukee this summer and you don't go to Explorium, you are missing out.
That's awesome. I appreciate that.
Fried meatloaf, appetizers, and the beer, and hopefully by then the Hope Blend.
Yes,
specifically to celebrate the end of COVID. Mike, thanks again. I'll ask you to hang on the line just for a minute while I wrap up here.
Certainly.
Thank you. Wow, that was really, really, really informative. I have to reiterate. I know I got into it back and forth with Jeremy there. I hope you're a good sport about it. I appreciate you and your comments. We are a nonpartisan organization. We care about businesses in Wisconsin, and we want businesses to thrive and survive this pandemic. I think Mike said it best when it's like, yeah, nobody likes masks, but he's required to do it. Right now, we're required to do that. So we need to suck it up and move on and do everything we can to help advocate for our businesses and our constituents. So, man, I'm telling you, his food and his beer at Explorium is out of this world. If you are in the Milwaukee area or in the Milwaukee suburban area, he's got a location downtown. Go to exploriumbrew.com. He's got a location downtown. He's got a location just down the road from me in Greendale. You want to meet up? We'll hang out at their outside fire pit and have a good old time. It'll be good. You reach out. But Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce will be here every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. If we provide any value for you today, please make sure to hit subscribe, and we will see you next week.